Hello and welcome back to the Dibber podcast. Today I am joined by Michael Blatherwick, a serial entrepreneur who has started and run several different businesses. He began his career in the IT industry before taking the plunge into the cricket industry by co-founding a specialist cricket brand, B3 Cricket, in Nottingham. This episode is all about how he manages and grows his businesses, as well as the importance of laying the foundations for the future. This will be a fascinating insight into the world of a successful entrepreneur, and I hope you enjoy the episode. Michael, thank you for joining me on the podcast. How are you?
Yeah, very well, thank you, Abid. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. You describe yourself as a serial entrepreneur. Has this been a case from a very young age, or was it something you developed?
Well, I've always been somebody who's enjoyed working and taking an opportunity. So if that makes you an entrepreneur, then yeah. But it all started with my dad. My dad was a builder, and even as a young teenager, 13, 14, at school holidays, I'd go and labour and get involved and earn a few quid.
You've been in the IT industry for a while. What sort of progression have you seen from when you had your first job going into more bigger projects and bigger jobs?
My first job actually was at about 15, apart from working for my dad. I got a job as a Saturday van driver's assistant at Curry's, the electrical store. So delivering washing machines and fridge freezers and setting up the old VHS and Betamax video recorders for people. So that was my first job. Then I tried really to become a professional cricketer. I was in Australia, and the people I stayed with put me in a room with a waterbed in it. I was 19, 20 then, mid-80s. When I got back to the UK and the cricket didn't work out, and I realised I needed to get a job, I researched the waterbed industry and found out they were very popular in Canada, America, Australia. But there was a British Waterbed Association, and I started importing stuff from Canada and selling waterbeds through one of the large national furniture stores, a company called Waring and Gillow. They had a shop in Nottingham, a big furniture store, and I managed to convince the concessions manager that I was worth a chance.
Yeah.
And I ended up having 4 or 5 concessions in Waring and Gillow's around the UK. So Tottenham Court Road in London, Manchester, Edinburgh, Birmingham in the Bullring, and Nottingham. So that was my first business. You know, we did the Earl's Court shows and Ideal Home exhibitions. It was the height of Thatcher's entrepreneurial Britain, you know,
Yeah.
a can-do sort of, anybody can go and do it. And it was really exciting.
So the waterbed idea really came from your own experience rather than, or did you do a bit of research on the UK market and thought, okay, there's a bit of a gap here?
Yeah, no. So I saw it in Australia and then did my research, found this group of people who were selling them, who had little shops and things around the country, and thought, yeah, this is a goer. And it was the height of sort of the yuppie era. You know, people were buying Porsches and various things, and the waterbed was a must-have accessory at the time.
So you clearly found a gap and then you went for it, which is very entrepreneurial.
Yes.
So you currently have several businesses that you run. And what made you get into, first of all, what made you get into the IT industry? And as you developed that, what made you then get into the cricket industry?
Well, all good things come to an end. So the boom of the mid-80s hit the recession in the late 80s, and Waring and Gillow decided to sell off all of their prime properties. So I had to make a decision on whether I went and got my own premises or did something else. In the end, I sold the customer base to a guy who worked for me installing and servicing them. And I'd sold a waterbed to a guy who owned his own IT company. And he obviously liked something about me, and he offered me a job as a young salesman, and I took that, and that's how I got into the IT industry.
And then what made you get into the cricket industry after that?
I moved on from that job, got another job. They went bust. Me and the then manager set up the IT company in 1991. I eventually started my own IT company and built that and sold it in 2011. And a good friend of mine who I grew up with playing schoolboy cricket, Russell Evans, was pretty high up at Gunner Moore. Russell was a professional cricketer till he was about 25. Then he went to work for Goodamore. So he'd been there for 25 plus years. And he'd got this idea for a new way of making cricket bats that would give the amateur player and the junior player the same service as a professional cricketer, using the computer-aided design and CNC machines to manufacture the bats. And he approached me. He knew I'd sold a business, obviously, and I might have a few quid to invest in a startup. We talked about it, we researched it, we fine-tuned it, and eventually we had the plan finalised for B3 Cricket, and we launched in October 2012.
Was there a defining sort of moment that made you realise, okay, this is a goer and you really do want to invest in it?
I trusted Russell and his judgment and knowledge of the industry implicitly. And it was a bit of a gut feel thing, really. I think a lot of entrepreneurs will tell you that. And it was, the gut feel was balanced against the size of the risk. So it seemed like something we should do. I also had the ambition of, I was at the time I was moving sort of from ending my playing days, at top amateur level toward coaching. And I wanted to build an indoor cricket centre, a school in my local area. And I saw that very closely aligned to the development of B3 Cricket. And that's eventually what we were able to do.
So you got your passion of cricket and you could actually build a business around that, which is great. For a lot of people, that might be, well, for a lot of cricketers, that's through coaching. But you get to do a bit of both, don't you? You're a bit of a coach as well as being able to do B3.
Yeah, absolutely. Russell and I had a really fun relationship. He was an amazing bloke to be around. I mean, I don't know if your audience know, but sadly, Russell passed away in 2017. He'd reached his goal also of becoming a first-class cricket umpire and was very well known and very popular. He passed away suddenly after a short illness in 2017. That changed the dynamic of B3. I went from the guy on the outside, sort of very much, sort of investing in his hobby and giving them a bit of guidance, to having to be much more involved on a day-to-day basis.
So that would have been quite a big change for you personally, because obviously you have other businesses which you run as well, and then to be put into a much more senior role at B3. How did that sort of change the dynamics around your other businesses and your life?
Well, I had to make a choice, but also fortunately, the other businesses were in a state where they didn't need me as much as they used to. So they were self-running to a large extent. B3 needed that hands-on attention. So I had to make a choice. And it was a choice of the heart rather than the wallet, to be fair, but don't regret it.
Absolutely. And you've touched on this just now, but how do you make a business self-sustainable and where you might oversee things but don't need to be involved in the day-to-day running of it?
Structure and good people, really, and clearly communicated and monitored roles and responsibilities. It's easier in big businesses often because you've got the budget and the marketplace to have the people in the right positions, good people on good money. So when I had the IT company, I would have an HR director, a finance director, a sales director, a projects director, a technical director. And as CEO or chairman, you would go in and they would do their bits well and be accountable. In smaller businesses, sometimes that's more difficult because the economies of scale don't work the same. And, the business owners have got to be a lot more hands-on and do more things. The term one-man band is very relevant. You have to play more than one instrument.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously as a small business, you still want to grow and become that medium and then the large business in an ideal world. Not many do, but that's the ideal sort of path you want to take. But when do you know is the right time to hire someone to take on a role that you currently do yourself or can do and know you can do probably better than someone new who might be coming in? You may need to train them up over time and then they reach your level. How do you know it's the right time to hire someone?
There are various triggers on that. I mean, sometimes it's just sheer workload, isn't it? You or your staff can't cope with the tasks that need doing on a regular basis. So you need to take somebody else on. Or you might work out that actually, if I delegated this and empowered somebody to do that, that enables me to do more of the other. which is going to be beneficial to the business, and that requires some investment to go through that transition. So there's different motivations and different reasons.
It must be a risk regardless to know when to make that decision, because obviously if you're going to hire someone in a position and pay them, let's say 25k, that's an investment you're making. How would you judge their success, especially in positions where you can't maybe look at just purely sales figures? How would you judge their success?
It's like you're batting or your bowling average. The statistics or the numbers don't lie, do they?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
You know, they've got to increase turnover and the profitability or efficiencies in other areas of the business that make that investment worthwhile. But sometimes it takes longer to get to that break-even point, and you've got to build that into your cash flow and your projections.
Do you have any key performance indicators that you focus on? I'm assuming customer service is obviously something which is more subjective, but are there any key performance indicators that you might look at on a daily, weekly, or monthly basis to show you how your businesses are performing? Is there anything in particular you look at? Maybe it's the turnover or whatever it might be.
My life in the IT business has been about putting in systems that give businesses exactly that information, enterprise resource planning, ERP, whatever you want to call it. That's exactly what it does. It gives people the business intelligence to see where they're going right, where they're going wrong, and spot problems before it's too late. So all the normal ones, sales, profitability, utilization of staff and resources, manufacturing, stock, all of those things. Businesses have lots of facets that you need to monitor all the time.
And in regards to the culture that you've created across your different businesses, naturally that culture comes from the staff you have, the people you have in the business, more than anything else. How do you maintain that, sustain that over time?
Communication is important. People talk about talking to your staff, getting their view, their ideas. I think it's also important to share your ideas and your challenges and the deliberations and considerations that you've got, because then they see it from your point of view. So communication from big team meetings in big companies, or empowering your key line managers to do that as well, to B3, which is sitting around the lunch table on a Friday when we all have fish and chips and have a good old catch up and share opinions.
And in regards to the culture and obviously hiring and firing staff, there's a saying where you hire slow but fire fast. What do you think of that? And how would you apply that in your businesses?
I suppose all the legislation around human resources and hiring and firing people makes that more difficult than it probably used to be. In essence, take your time, making sure you've got the right person. But if you find out that they're not, then you've probably only got a few months in which you can take that decision to change. Yeah.
Or another saying is hiring is guessing to an extent, whereas firing is knowing. So, I guess that applies to, but then having probationary periods in place, which where there is a trial period for a lot of the staff, where you go 3 or 6 months and see how they are, how they're settling in. And then maybe if it's not working out, you can move them on, or if it does work out, you can keep them.
Yeah, I mean, what I try to do is define the role as transparently and as deeply as I can, so you don't waste anybody's time. Have that initial meeting, especially now people have got used to things like Zoom. Have a Zoom meeting, tell them as much as you can about the role and what you expect and how they will be measured. You want people who are even at a low level to be accountable and understand what their responsibilities are. And if somebody's looking for an easy number, I normally find that after that initial chat, they won't come back for a second interview.
Yeah. What do you think of social media? And obviously hiring people and recruiting people, you can get a sort of social media account of them and of their lives, what they're like. Do you think social media necessarily offers a true reflection of what they might be professionally? Because it's naturally, social media is a very personal, private thing in their private lives. Do you think that gives a fair reflection of what they might be as workers?
Yes and no, but I think what people, especially young people, need to realise is that their social media footprint will reflect on them. So whether it's fair or not is inconsequential to a large extent. The old way of researching their history and character was to take out references, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So I would still take out references, but I would also check their social media footprint. It's a great way of having a different angle on an individual.
What if they don't have a social media presence? Because there tends to be, or there is, it's not a major trend, but there is a small trend where a lot of young people are actually going off social media and just deleting all their accounts. They don't have any history. How would you go about it then?
Well, I'd applaud that. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. If I didn't have B3 cricket and needed to be on social media to market B3, I think I'd be a lot less interactive on social media. So I wouldn't hold that against them at all.
Okay, because there are a lot of people who might go the other way and say, oh, they're not on social media. Are they hiding something? And, because it's so prominent now, everyone has social media. So that would not affect your sort of judgment.
Yeah, there's ways and means of doing due diligence. It depends what you're hiring for, doesn't it? If you're hiring for, the next 007, you've probably got to go a bit deeper than you have for, a warehouse operative. I don't, but you do tend to go on. Well, I do. My wife says that I'm a terrible judge of character, but I tend to go on gut instinct, and I've got, rightly or wrongly, I always see the best in people. I suppose it's a common trait of a born optimist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it does work out more than it doesn't to see that, because you naturally can open up more to your employees, talk to them about plans, they give you ideas, and you can grow your business.
My recruitment's a bit like the way I used to bat. Occasionally you chase a wide one and you're going to nick off, aren't you?
Absolutely. And when it comes to setting, it can be a very tricky sort of topic, but when it comes to setting the right sort of wage packet for someone, what do you think, or how do you go about doing that?
I'll start with what's fair for the job and what's normal for the job, and tell them what that is, and find out their expectations as early in the process as possible, so you're not wasting each other's time. So I'd do that in the Zoom call. This is the job role. I don't know if you're allowed to ask it now, but I will always ask, what are you earning at the moment? What your salary expectations? And if that fits within the bracket. And don't be naive. People talk. Members of staff talk. So
of course,
if you try and underpay them, you're going to get found out, and that'll end badly.
Yeah. In terms of salary expectations, are they reasonable, do you feel, if you do ask that question to them, or do you think they ask for more than maybe the job is worth?
That comes through in the P45 eventually. So again, they'd be naive to think that you can't find that out. But no, just be honest with them. If they are asking for more than the budget you got for the role, or what you think is normal for the role, or is in line with the other members of staff, then you explain that and see if they still want the job, don't you?
Yeah. So just moving on from that, what do you think is the importance of, 1, patience, 2, investing, and 3, laying the foundations for the future?
All of them, and it depends on the type of business and the business plan. But I've had businesses where it's been a longer term investment and the break even has been at some point in the future, and you're working towards that. I've had other businesses that are immediately self-sustainable and profitable, and you don't require as much investment or risk. So it depends very much on the product, the business, the marketplace, and how you want to scale it, whether that's a dynamic growth or whether that's a more generic growth.
Yeah. And is there a particular strategy that works better than the other, where you need the finances to grow it quickly, or is the organic growth the more longer term sustainable model?
So take B3 Cricket, for example. That's very much an organic growth business. You're looking to consolidate your reputation, your brand, and take more market share in what is probably a declining market in the UK. Some of the IT business I've been involved with, the opportunity is huge. You're early in the marketplace. Demand is there, so you need to scale fast to maximize the potential and get ahead of the game. So I have done both.
Okay. But you think it just depends on the industry?
Not so much the industry, more the opportunity and the timing of the the product. When I started the first IT company, computerized accounting systems for small, medium-sized businesses was very much a new thing.
Yeah.
You know, we were selling an accounting software package with a dot matrix printer on a low-level standalone computer for about 5 or 6K or £25 a week on a lease, and we just couldn't keep up with demand. And our bottleneck was the implementation people, the consultants who would go out and do the training and the implementation of the software and the systems. So we had to get some funding, we had to scale, and we had to recruit hard to backfill that bottleneck and lag. And that was great because it worked. But, you know, again, I had a finance director who monitored the numbers and the plan and the key indicators very closely, and we did it well.
How do you hire the right finance director?
Oh, what did I do? I put an advert in the Evening Post, and he walked up the drive, and we hit it off, and I gave him a chance.
Yeah. Because finance director naturally is a very senior sort of position in any business, in any organization. How did you sort of say, okay, I need to invest this much into this position now?
That was it was different because we were a startup. I was 22 years of age, and you know, Terry was similar, and you know, as I say, so it was a startup. We were kind of in it together. It was exciting. It was fresh. It was an adventure. That's different to if I was doing that now for a larger corporate. But again, it's all the same things. You know, you do your due diligence, don't you? And you're looking to match them to the job and see how they respond to that. Yeah.
And looking back now on your career so far, would you do anything differently?
Hindsight's a terrible thing, Abid.
You can learn from it as well.
No, but you can't change it. So I've always been, you know, tomorrow's the first day of the rest of your life kind of guy. I suppose on the IT side, I would have gone for the higher end market sooner. You know, we did a lot of SME stuff, and whilst it was great, profitable, a lot of fun, the big opportunities were in the bigger companies with bigger systems. More risk, but I think we would have done it. And when we did eventually do it, it was very successful anyway.
Yeah, but obviously when you were doing the smaller projects and the smaller things, you may have been comfortable in what you were doing. And because of the risk involved in doing the bigger projects, you did not take that leap.
Running a business is like a relationship, whether it's a marriage or your family or whatever. Once you're in it, you've got constrictions. You can't just leave it, and you don't just want to leave it. So I, through my IT business, have met hundreds, if not thousands, of very successful businessmen, all at top levels, from SMEs to, you know, big corporate players. There's not necessarily a correlation between the quality of the individual and the success of the business. Often, some of the most impressive people I've seen are trapped within a small business. Yeah,
it's interesting.
Yeah, some of the most unimpressive people I've met are commanding very big salaries and benefits in large corporates.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. That's fascinating. You know, it's so the unimpressive people may have got lucky in many ways.
Listen, it's about taking opportunities and fitting in at the right time, isn't it? But I often wonder what you know, if I'd gone down the corporate route rather than the small business entrepreneurial route, where could I have got to, and vice versa. But, you know, it's the same as, you know, you get a girlfriend, you marry her, you make a life together. You know, what if you chose the other girlfriend? No. I know that sounds really bad about not, but no. But you once you make a commitment, you're committed, aren't you? You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. And obviously, life is full of decisions where majority are sort of, you have two options really. If you go this way, this would have happened, but you went that way, and that happened. Yeah, absolutely. And just looking back in terms of, again, your journey so far, is there anything you would say to a young entrepreneur starting off right now? Because that's the big thing right now. That's the buzzword, being an entrepreneur. What would you suggest to them?
Whether you're an entrepreneur, self-employed, an employee, whatever, just be enthusiastic. Find something that you want to get out of bed for, and then do it with a smile on your face to the best of your ability every day. You know, I love nothing more than, you know, our showroom is packed on a Saturday morning. I love it. And it takes me back to when I was a 15-year-old on the shop floor in Currys, because I went from van driver assistant to, oh, actually, you're good. You are. Come and have a go at selling video recorders to people in the shop. And because I did it with energy and a smile on my face, that gets you places.
And for yourself personally, what are your plans for the future?
Just keep growing B3 and enjoy that. Like most people at my age, you kind of, your main motivation is you want your kids and your family to be happy and healthy, and you just enjoy life, really.
Yeah, Michael, this has been a fascinating insight into your journey, how you've sort of grown your businesses, got into different industries as well, and been very patient. That's the one thing I've sort of learned through this episode. You've been extremely patient throughout, but you've been patient with results, but impatient with actions, which is what I've learned. And I think that's been a very key takeaway. And the other one is obviously you are doing something, or anyone sort of starting their own business shouldn't run after the money. It's something they should do, something which they really enjoy and really can make a sort of career out of it, simply by because they'll put in the hours. If they enjoy it, they have interest in it, they'll put in the hours, the hard work, and it will be successful. Whereas I think too many people chase the money and then it fails and it never works out for them.
Don't make that your be all and end all. And if it's not giving you the rewards you want, either physically, mentally, or numerically, then you can make a choice. Get out of it as early as you can and find something else, or stop whinging and crack on. Yeah,
absolutely. Two options again. No, that's brilliant. Thank you so much, Michael, for doing this with me. And
no worries, Abid. Thank you.
We'll definitely have to do it again at some point in the future. But thank you so much.
Cheers.